In late January on Astarte farm, it was looking like the same old winter grays and browns. When the sun was out in the middle of the day, temperatures were in the mid-30s, dropping back into the low 20s at night. But a quick, cold, and dry 4 inches of snow at the end of the month seemed to liven things up. We got an order for some of our overwintered spinach, and a pop-up crew was organized to bring the harvest in from High Tunnel 3. Ellen, Amelia, and Sam made short work of cutting the bigger leaves off of 2 full beds, and because our customer requested a no-wash field run pack, just under 20 pounds was ready before lunch. The spinach is being grown in our coldest single-layer plastic tunnel, but it feels positively balmy in there out of the snow and the wind. We have 2 or 3 varieties of spinach growing in this tunnel, and the irrigation has been turned off since the end of November. The thick compost mulch on the bed tops, coupled with the cardboard and wood chip mulch in the paths, has kept enough moisture in the soil to keep them steadily, if slowly, growing. Many of the larger leaves have already been skimmed off these beds by the owners and crew, who understandably are craving fresh food at this time of year. Today's cutting is taking the majority of the remaining leaves, but the plants will bounce back with increasing speed as the sun keeps climbing higher in the sky each day. We have plenty of cold, snowy weather to get through before any ground opens up outside, but here in the tunnels we can take advantage of some positive climate modification and get a real head start on the season. Over in tunnels 1 and 2, the lettuce that is left over from our last fall planting is not faring quite so well, even with a double layer of inflated plastic and an additional blanket of Rime row cover. I have been cutting a good number of heads every few weeks for salads at home, but there have been increasing signs of disease on more and more plants. While the row covers can help insulate the plants and lessen the temperature swings that they must endure, those covers also hold in moisture and humidity, which can promote disease. There are several high tunnel systems that have been developed over the years that allow row covers to be spread and retracted easily. But because we drain all the water from our wash house in the winter and aren't normally looking for a winter harvest, we have never tried any of them on the farm. This week, as I searched for some usable lettuce heads for harvest, I became increasingly worried by the type of disease symptoms I was finding. Powdery mildew on lettuce has been fairly common in these tunnels in past seasons, but it is usually easily controlled through variety selection, crop rotation, and basic sanitation practices. The brown patches I was finding on some leaves were somewhat angular in shape and appeared not to cross a rib or vein. The infection was definitely working deep into the affected heads, and my brief research led me to believe that it might be something like downy mildew on the lettuce. That was worrying, because it has also been known to infect field crops, and we traditionally sell a lot of lettuce. Lettuce powdery mildew is pretty easy to identify because initially it forms small white spots on the upper sides of the leaves, then gradually spreading out to cover the whole leaf. Despite the disease increase, it was still possible to find plenty of good leaves in the middle of some heads, and a somewhat aggressive field trimming yielded a number of fine winter salads for our family. Not all lettuce varieties can tolerate the midwinter high tunnel conditions here in Massachusetts, and all the varieties seen here were planted with the expectation of a late November harvest, so everything I can pick is a pure bonus. It is also an intriguing peek into the potential for a year-round crop on the farm. Here are some close-up shots of the diseases on the lettuce that were causing me some alarm. If you look closely, you may be able to see aphid husks or their desiccated bodies on the badly diseased leaves. The powdery mildew was easy to see, but it was the yellowing patches on some leaves that inspired me to reach out for some expert advice. I contacted the UMass Vegetable Notes Extension newsletter to see if anyone could identify the diseases from these photos. I was impressed by the quick response from Genevieve Higgins, an extension educator with the UMass Extension Vegetable Program. She came to the farm and took samples on one of the coldest days of the winter. I can only apologize for the poor audio in the following segment and regret that I was unable to capture more of the great information she was able to provide on these diseases.
Two things that I was thinking about was botrytis and rhizoctonia. Rhizoctonia is R-H-I-Z. See if I can pick this up without it falling apart. This like fuzzy brown.
As you can see in the following shots, not all varieties of lettuce can flourish in our current, somewhat unpredictable high tunnel conditions. In general, it appears that oak leaf varieties did better for us this season, but there were some impressive survivors in the romaine crisphead crosses, as well as a few of the butterhead lettuces. The good news for us was that there was no sign of downy mildew on the lettuce or the spinach. The yellow and brown patches on some lettuce plants were either frost damage, rhizoctonia fungus, also known as damping off when it affects seedlings, or possibly botrytis. We should have an answer in a few days after microscopic examination, but for now we are confident calling the damage rot. To me, the mildews represent the dark side of the beneficial fungi that are edible, medicinal, or invaluable mediators of plant nutrition within our soils. The Irish potato famine was caused by the same fungus that devastates tomatoes under the common name of late blight. The downy mildews are actually more closely related to algae than fungi, despite having similar names, and they exhibit their characteristic fuzziness on the undersides of the leaves. Basil downy mildew, which may have shown up initially in European greenhouses, came close to eliminating basil from our crop list. Some potential hosts for various strains of downy mildew are spinach, cucumbers, kale, and rosemary. In these pandemic times, it's a comfort to know that plant diseases are not transmissible to humans. But without the dedicated work of plant breeders and university researchers, many of our essential crops could become impossible to grow. But on a cheerier note, the garlic in High Tunnel 2 continues to be a source of hope with its strong green shoots promising the joys of spring. Garlic grown in a high tunnel can be harvested 6 to 8 weeks earlier than field garlic, and by having control over the soil moisture before harvest, some truly great garlic can be produced. As with the spinach, a thick compost mulch has helped this bed retain moisture and has also helped insulate the soil from the nighttime temperature dips. The nice dark color of the compost draws heat energy on a sunny day and provides any hardy soil organisms with a buffet of nutrition. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like, or even better, subscribe. Thanks again.